Okay, so this is the 2015 question 8 part B, which is the flexible budgeting, and I'm going to do part 2 of it. Now, in order to do part 2, you need to use the information that you gained from doing part 1. So I just wrote down the solution to part 1 here before I start part 2. And the solution was the variable overheads cost $4.48 per unit, the production overheads cost that as their variable part, and the fixed part of that cost was $12,720. The other overheads, the variable cost was $320 per unit, and the fixed cost was €4,600. So we're going to use that in a moment for part 2. So part 2 says prepare a flexible budget for 90% activity level using marginal costing principles, which means we must write it out like a marginal costing statement. So the marginal costing statements are always the same. They start with sales, and then you add up all of the variable costs and subtract them from the sales to get the contribution, and then you subtract all the fixed costs from what's left in order to give yourself the profit. So the sales, first of all, we can't come up with the sales figure just yet because we need to know what the costs are, because the sales price is based on this figure here, this item which says profit is budgeted to be 20% of sales. So in order to figure out the sales, we need to first work out what the total costs are. So we're going to skip that line and we're going to move straight on to the less variable costs. So less variable costs. Okay, and our variable costs are going to be, well, looking at our costs here, direct materials are completely variable and direct labour is variable. Production overheads has a variable part to it, so we're going to include that, as does other overhead costs. So there's going to be these 4 in our variable cost section. So just to write that out, direct materials, direct labour, production overheads, and other overheads. Oops. Okay, so the next thing is, in order to work out any of these, first of all, we'll need to know for the 90% activity level, how many units does that mean we're going to produce? So we're going to use any one of these 3 columns to work out the units for 90%. So if we take this one for a start, if we know that 70% is 21,000, then we just have to divide 21,000 by 70 to get 1%. If 21,000 is 70%, then we divide that by 70, we get 1% is 300. And so if we want 90%, we just have to multiply that by 90. So 27,000 is the number of units that you would produce for 90% activity. And does that make sense? Yep, it's less than 95. It's greater than the figure for 85. So, yep, that's fine. So what do we say again? 27,000. So each of these costs, and the sales indeed as well, when we go back to it, is going to be based on 27,000, even though we don't need the figure for the sales. So 27,000, 27,000, 27,000, 27,000. Okay, so our direct materials. We know we're going to be producing 27,000 units of something, so we need to know how much per unit will the cost of direct materials are going to be. So again, if we come back to any one of the 3 of these columns, but we might as well stick with this one for the time being. Direct materials for 21,000 units is 315,000. So if we want to know for 1 unit, we divide 315,000 by 21,000. So each unit costs us €15 in direct materials. So if we take that over here, if we want to make 27,000 units, then we must multiply that by 15 in order to get our total material costs. So multiply that by 27,000, it's 405,000. So we're going to put that in the first of 2 columns. Okay, direct labor, exact same idea. It costs 231,000 to make 21,000 units. So 231,000 divided by 21,000 is 11 euros per unit, is what it costs us in labour. So for 27,000 units, it's 27 by 11, 297,000. Now for these two, if we've done this correctly, the first part, we know that it's 448 per unit for production overheads, and it's 320 per unit for other overheads. And so if we take our 27,000 multiplied by 448, 120,960, and do the same thing for the 320, 86,400. Okay, so that's our total variable costs. So if we add all of them together, so 60, 909,360, so that's going to go in here. 9,360, and we are going to be subtracting that from our sales figure in order to get our contribution. So we don't know what that is yet, but we can put that in afterwards. Contribution, and that's going to go in here when we do figure out what it is. Next, less fixed costs. And again, our fixed costs are what? Well, our direct materials were totally variable, so they have no fixed elements. Same with the direct labour. Production overheads were mixed costs, so they had a fixed and a variable part. So the fixed part of production overheads is 12,720, so we could put that in. 12,720. Okay, same with the other overheads. It had a fixed part, which is 4,600. What do I call it? Other overheads. And if we go back to this, that's the production, the other overheads. The last thing is admin expenses, which was fixed for no matter what percentage of production you're doing. So 35,000 for that. That is admin expenses. So, taking the three of them together, plus 4,600 and 12,720 gives us, 52,320. So 52,320, again it goes over here. We'll be subtracting that from our contribution, and that should give us our net profit, or just profit if you like. Profit. Now we need to go back to find the sales. Now that we have our total costs are all of our variable costs and all of our fixed costs put together. So let's add the two of them together first of all. So there's 52,320 plus 909,360, 961,680. So 961,680. Okay, now you don't have to write out this calculation as such. I'm just going to do it to explain it. So if our sales, you take away your costs minus cost, gives you your profit. Okay, and if it says that profit is budgeted to be 20% of sales, so if we take sales to be 100% and profit to be 20% of sales, and you get that profit after subtracting costs, then costs must be 80% because you're subtracting this 80%, leaving you with the 20%, which is your profit. So if this is 20% and costs is 80%, well, the only figure we have so far is the amount for costs. So if we now know that that's 80%, we can work out what our 100% is or our 20% is. So if we want to get the 100%, we might just take our 961,680 divided by 80 will give us 1%. That's 1% there. And if we multiply by 100, oops, that gives us our 100%, which represents our sales. 1, 2, 0, 2, 1, whatever it is. Okay, where are we? 1, 2, 0, 2, 100. Okay, and if you want, you can work out that's the 27,000 by something. You can work out the unit costs. So if you like, divided by 27. Ooh, it's not a nice amount. Okay, no need to do that then, I would say. So it's unnecessary anyway. So we have this, so we must write in our contribution. Certainly there would be marks going for that. 1202 100 minus 360 is 292,740. And then subtract this, minus 52,320 gives me 240,420, and that's your profit. And that's the whole thing.